Hello and welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Oakley Dean Baldwin. I'm a retired law enforcement officer and retired chief warrant officer with the United States Coast Guard, where I was an intel officer at Sector, North Carolina for about the last 5 or 6 years of my duty. Today I want to talk about Pauline Pusser and a little bit about her children and a little bit about her stone. And first I want to show you a couple pictures, and I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. I know that my editor can pop these in, but I'm kind of old school myself, so I'm just going to hold these up and let you take a look at them. This first picture is right here, this one right here. That's Pauline with her cousin in Hazy, Virginia when she was 16 years old. And that would have been around 1947, about 2 years before she moved away and went to Chicago. And once she did move away, when she was 18 years old, she met a man named Roman Vance. They called him Pete. And they got married in 1949. Her marriage certificate clearly shows that she was 18 years old when they got married. So she would have been born in 1931. And I'll get back to why I'm going over that here in just a minute. Her birth certificate also states that she was born February 27th, 1931. So when we go down to when she marries Mr. Buford Pusser and they moved to Chicago, and then on August the 12th of 1967, she's murdered. This is her tombstone date here. And as you can see, it says February 27th, 1934. And my question is, Buford Pusser lived for 7 years after, and I do understand that he was in a hospital for 18 days after he was shot in the ambush. And he probably wasn't there when they decided to put that date on the marker. But he lived from 1967 until 1974 when he died in that car crash. He had 7 years. Why didn't he think enough of his wife to put the right date on her tombstone? That's my question. And as far as I know today, it still sits there at 1934. So we'll go back to Chicago when she married Roman Vance. Her first child, Diane, was born a year later in 1950. Then they had a son, Michael, in 1954. And everyone knows about Dewana once she moves down, once she marries Buford Pusser, and before she moved down from Chicago in 1961, she had a daughter, Dewana. But what you may not know, and you've probably never seen this, but I have a picture of her third child, Karen Felicia, who was born in April of 1957. Now, Roman Vance and Pauline were splitting, I think, in around 1956. Pauline told her family that Roman wasn't very nice to her. They had a lot of arguments and fights. She was pregnant, and she led people to believe that Roman was the father. Now, there's an old saying that goes this way: Mommy's baby, daddy's maybe. So I guess we'll really never know unless somebody actually did a DNA test on Karen Felicia. Now, Karen was severely handicapped mentally and physically. So Pauline could not keep her and raise 2 other children and work jobs that she was doing up there as a divorced woman in Chicago. Now, this was 2 years before she met Buford Pusser at the Buccaneer Club in early 1959. And then she didn't marry Buford Pusser until December the 5th of 1959. But let me show you this picture. This picture is Karen Felicia sitting on Odell Hill's lap. Now, Odell Hill and Tony Hill adopted this child knowing that the quality of life would probably not get any better than what she was at that point. But Odell could not have any children, and she wanted this child, and she was related by Pauline's mother was Bertha Hill to Tony Hill. They were distant relatives, and they made an arrangement. There's no official documents of an adoption, and I'll talk more about that here in a minute. But this is the picture. This is probably the only picture of Karen Felicia sitting in the lap of Odell, and you can see the top of the picture has actually been destroyed. They had a house fire, and a lot of the pictures were lost. But this is Karen Felicia, and I've contacted many other cousins and relatives of Pauline's family, and no one else has any pictures, or if they do, they've not shared them with me. And if you know anybody, if you watch this video, I would love to have a better picture for my records. That's the only one that I have come across. Now, when I say there's no official adoption, what I'm talking about is back in the 50s, 40s and 50s, if someone else would raise your child, you would just let them have the child. Now, when Karen Felicia died in her mid-20s, and she was actually in a home, a facility, taking care of her because she couldn't move. She got pneumonia and died at a young age. Odell raised her for about 6 or 8 years, and then she died of cancer. That was the reason she couldn't have any children. And then Tony Hill remarried Mullen's woman, and they tried to raise her for a few more years. And then when Tony died, his second wife wasn't able to take care of her, so Karen went from home to home to home. And the TV and the movie shows always show the other children, but they never have mentioned Karen. They may not even have known about Karen. I don't even know if Buford Pusser knew about Karen. But anyhow, that's the start of that. But what I do have, this is the obituary for Odell Hill that was logged into the church that she attended. And in this obituary, they speak of the elder that wrote this obituary. He spoke of how Tony Hill and Odell Hill had adopted this invalid child, and how they loved it and took care of it and cherished this child and raised it like their own. And that's the document that I needed to put this all together. I heard all the stories from several of the family members, but they only had bits and pieces. I finally got a document that shows that Karen was adopted by the Hill family and raised. And in fact, Karen is buried right beside Odell up there in Virginia near the Kentucky border. And her tombstone is Karen Hill, and it sits right beside Odell's plot. So they're buried side by side. They were very loving to Karen, and they did try their best to take care of her. So I wanted to go over the marriage license that showed Pauline was 18 years old, the birth certificate that showed Pauline was 18 years old when she got married, and it showed that she was born in 1931, not 1934. And you may ask, well, why does that make a difference? Well, correcting this history is what we're trying to do, and in the process, hopefully we'll bring some justice to Pauline and her unsolved murder, or basically her unsolved execution on August the 12th of 1967. And for so long, it's just been unsolved. And finally, back in 2023, the TBI got back involved with it. And I understand, hopefully, some information should be released this year, hopefully before the end of the year, and to bring some resolution to this case. Well, that's what I had to share with you. If you do have any photographs of Karen Felicia and you are a family member, please reach out to me. And I'm on Facebook. The Baldwin Stories at gmail.com is our email address. Please feel free to hit us up with an email and forward those pictures on to us. We'd love to have them. And Till next time, we'll see you later and have a great day.